guys, Legendary Speed Hunter here. Today we are going to be reacting to another Wansee Entertainment animated story. So, you guys know that I love Wansee Entertainment. I just took a sip of water. So, let's just stop with the talking and let's just go.
One day,
A ghost in my friend's flat.
this incident took place in Dubai when I was 10. I used to go to my friend's apartment to play with him at the time of vacation. One day, as usual, I went to his room to play. After playing for a long time, I went to the bathroom. While I was washing my face off and other things suddenly started to fall down. I was surprised. I thought maybe it was because of wind, but when I checked the surroundings, I found out there wasn't any window in the bathroom.
Oh no.
I got out and told my friend the incident. He told me that there's a ghost in his room. I freaked out. At first, I didn't believe him. However, then next his mother and father explained the paranormal activities which had taken place there since they moved into that place. His father was making a burrito in the kitchen one day, and suddenly a call came for him. He kept the burrito on the stove and attended the call. After attending the call, when he came back, he was surprised to find out that the burrito was burning down in flames from the stove. But he said he was definitely sure that he hadn't turned on the stove yet. Another day, while his mother was cooking food, suddenly she felt as if someone was choking her by holding her throat from behind, and she fled out of the kitchen with a scream. The same day, while they were sleeping at night, they heard sounds from the bathroom. And when they checked it out, they found all the things, such as bottles of toilet cleaner and other things, had been scattered inside the bathroom. And that story made me suddenly freeze. This was the exact same incident which occurred to me. They had called some group of ghost hunters and did some sort of rituals and found out that 2 people had been murdered by someone. To know if this was true, they went to the flat owner, and he said just the same thing like the ghost hunters and apologized for giving them this room. They moved out the next day after my visit to their house. Well, to this day, I still wonder what would have happened to me if I had stayed there for some more time.
Nah. You don't gotta be friends with him no more. Don't be friends with him no more because you about to be dead. My old haunted house.
My name is Max. I live in the center of the city now, but a few years back I lived in an old house on a somewhat sketchy street. But that doesn't mean I was poor. The house was ugly from outside, and it was built before World War II, but clean, warm, and cozy inside, although many people died in it there. I always believed in ghosts because of all the weird incidents that happened. Like one time, at night, me and my mom were sitting in a room. It was pitch black outside the room we sat in. Suddenly, we heard someone was tripping over, falling in the kitchen. We also heard things like plates fall down and shatter. But when we walked outside, nothing was there. Everything was in its place, and we were so scared about what was going on. A few years later, I had a dream. Me and my mom were walking down a path, and suddenly we stopped, and I heard a voice saying, "Bridge." I felt something knocking on my back 3 times, and I woke up scared. Nothing was there, so I didn't think of it that much and went back to sleep. However, after that night, this dream appeared again and again. The voice said various things that I don't remember, and one time it said something about my mom's death.
What?
It always ended with something knocking on my back 3 times. It was creepy. One time, me and my mom sat in a room and talked about ghosts, and I told her about what I'd been dreaming. Mom went silent for a second, and she confided in me that once she was sitting with a friend, and he said something not too nice to her, just for fun. She got angry and screamed, "Shut up," in a male voice, and she didn't remember that. When she described the voice, it reminded me that the voice sounded just like the voice in my dreams. In 2017, she passed away because of cancer. She died in the same room, in the same house where I got those nightmares. After that, I moved out to another place a few years ago. So I don't live in that house anymore. But I still believe in ghosts, that they exist, and they are real.
Wow. Just wow. I'm sorry about your mom though, but that is creepy. So this animation is true horror story. True airport horror story.
It was the spring of 2017. I was flying out to Chicago for a job interview. It was around 11 p.m. and I was sitting in my gate at the San Francisco International Airport. A storm was raging outside. Rain pouring down the windows as everyone was bundled up on the seats and keeping to themselves. I was just scanning the rows of people in seats sleeping, on laptops or phones, and wearing earbuds before I noticed this one guy. He was sitting in the farthest corner of the gate by the corridor, with no one else sitting around him. He was not on his phone or wearing headphones like everyone else. He has this huge, crooked grin plastered on his face, and he's staring directly at me. He looked pretty average in terms of looks and what he was wearing. But that grin was so creepy, it was beginning to make me shit bricks. Naturally, I turned away and pretended I hadn't seen him. But the fact that he was staring at me made me continuously turn to eye him back without realizing. Eventually, they called our gate and I boarded the plane. I took my seat in the business class right by the window and went on my phone, checking Instagram and texting friends. I did not see the creepy man boarding. An hour later, we were up in the sky. Sometime through the flight, I got up to use the bathroom, and as I was finishing up in there, someone knocked on the door. I called out, "Occupied," but the person continued knocking repeatedly and aggressively. As I was washing my hands, I ignored it, hoping it would go away, but it didn't. So I opened the door to make some ballsy remark, but froze when I saw who was in front of me. It was that guy from the airport, still with that...
Okay. You don't gotta jump scare me like that with that jump scare music. You don't gotta do that. Yeah, you hear me? You don't gotta do that. You don't gotta do that with some jump scaring music. Especially with this smiling creep.
Creepy grin plastered on his face. Quickly, I pushed past him and walked to my seat, not glancing behind me. The rest of my flight went normal except for the fact that I couldn't get him off my mind. As soon as we landed in Chicago, I was the first to get my suitcase down from the overhead luggage, and the first off of that airplane.
Why?
I called an Uber as I walked to the airport parking lot. It was 12 p.m. in Chicago. The Uber came and I drove to my hotel. And as I checked into my room, I realized something horrible.
What?
My wallet was missing.
That's horrible.
I don't know where I could have left it. So I called the airport and asked them to search the plane. They did so and got back to me a few hours later saying they found nothing. I drove back to the airport and spent the whole rest of the day searching and turning up nothing. My only theories were I had somehow left it at San Francisco or it had been stolen. I was able to recover and spent 3 more days walletless in Chicago. But you know what? Here's the scary part.
What?
When I got back to San Francisco and drove to my house, I discovered something disturbing. My door was unlocked, and my entire house was trashed.
No.
Everything had been broken, and anything worth a slight amount of value had been taken.
Like your money?
I checked my security footage and was able to identify the intruder as the grinning man from the airport who, sure enough, had my wallet and therefore my keys. I called the police who found his fingerprints all over my house. The only scary thing was that the prints did not match anyone on record.
No! No! That's no! Nah, we ain't about to do that. Really?
On Saturday at 11:30 a.m., I invited my friend Sophia to come to my general hangout.
Wait, we gotta go back.
Creepy stalker. On Saturday at 11:30 a.m., I invited my friend Sophia to come to my house, just a general hangout. She came to my house at 12:25 and everything was going normal when we was talking in my room. As we were hungry then, we decided to go out, so we bought some snacks and walked to the park, which is next to the shops. When we about to leave from the park and just walked across the road, I saw a white car. I thought it was passing by, but the car just slowed down next to me and one guy opened the window. He was almost 35 to 40-year-old Pakistani man. He asked me, "Are you okay?" with a perverted grin. Then he said to me, come here, I want to talk to you."
No!
And I said no, while looking at the back seat of the car to see if he has anyone with him that will harm us. But luckily, he didn't. The guy said, "Please, I want to talk to you," while he was licking his fingers and staring at me.
Oh, that's disgusting. This boy I'm about to slap this boy. I'm gonna slap some sense in this man.
Then he made such a nasty hand gesture. I felt very angry and disgusted. Sophia whispered to me, "Let's go, he's creep." As me and my friend walked away from the car and went to a different path, which is next to the shops, he followed us and parked next to me again. Then saying, "Why won't you speak to me? Come on, speak to me. Come here, please." Out of anger, I yelled and said, "Leave me alone, you weirdo."
Yeah.
Then we saw him with a very evil and perverted smile. I grabbed Sophia's arm and ran inside the shop and hiding. I was calling my other friend Jahim and told him briefly what's going on. He kept saying, "Call the police," but I thought it would be alright. Few more minutes later, we left the shop and walked on the same path as that was the quickest way to go to my home.
Bro.
We thought everything was okay until she turned around and screamed, "He's following us!" There was the same white car. So scared. My legs were shaking as we ran, and while I was running, I told Jahim on the phone, "He's following us!" and then said, "Go to the spider park." It was a small park that no car can park as there was houses around and which was right next to my house. I shouted, "Sophia, hide!" She hid behind the wall while I was hiding another place. As a result, the guy was still following but couldn't find us. He was roaming around the area. When he disappeared, we went towards the park from a small gate and finally went back to my place.
Good.
Once we arrived home, I told my family everything that happened and phoned the police, but the police didn't do anything about it.
Seriously.
They just said, "We will use it as intel and update you, but we can't do anything right now," which made us feel so sad.
I'm angry.
However, the most scary thing came up next by Sophia, who reminded me suddenly about the incident I've told her a week ago. She said, "What if it is the same guy?" I said, "What do you mean?" Then she said, "You know, when you told me about the guy who knocked on your window while you was trying to sleep?" My mind froze. It was 3:00 a.m. in the morning. Luckily,
3:00 a.m. in the morning. Because we know it's. You should have just said 3 a.m. It was just 3 a.m. Just say 3 a.m. Not 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning.
it was 3:00 a.m. in the morning.
Bruh, what is 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning. Just say just say 3 a.m. We know it's 3 o'clock, and we know it's in the morning, but you don't gotta say 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning.
Luckily, it was 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning. Luckily, I had curtains so he wouldn't see me, but I never forget the moment looking at the end of the curtain where the window was showing clearly and seeing a guy arm knocking on my window. I remember rubbing my eyes to make sure that I wasn't imaging some demons, but no matter how much I rubbed my eyes, the figure of the mysterious guy arm was still there. From that day on, I just stayed in my room feeling very scared for about 2 weeks. What if he was the same guy knocking on my window?
Wow, bro, that's just wow. That was creepy. I don't think we can do all the 15 horror stories because right now I want to do something and I want to get this video done, but I'm just gonna react to a few more. Something terrible just had something just something terrible just had happened at my house.
When I was 7, I had a really scary experience that I will never forget. I got up at 8 a.m., as usual, but as I stood up, I noticed something was different. It was very cold, and I felt like someone was watching me. When I turned to my sister's bed, she woke up, and I screamed. 2 heads hovered in the air, one of an older woman with long, dark hair and green eyes, the other of a bald, older man with blue eyes. I screamed again and ran to my mother. I told her what happened and saw some man at the door. I can't recall what he looked like, but I screamed and hugged my mother when I saw him. I was crying at this point, and she looked at me as I pointed to the door, not explaining why.
He's not there.
She instantly knew what I was upset about, and she spoke in the direction of the door. I don't know what she said. I was just too scared to listen, and all I wanted was to be somewhere else. Nothing like this happened to me again, until I was 13. I was coming from my friend's house and was really tired. I went to my room, turned the lights off, and went to bed. At 4 a.m., I suddenly woke up without a reason. When I looked at the door, I saw my mother looking at my sister. She had lifeless eyes, which reminded me of the incident that happened when I was 7 years old. The heads had the same lifeless eyes as my mother, except her eyes were red and just looked evil. I knew it wasn't my mom. I hid under the blanket, praying that the thing would just go away. When I looked up, it was still there. I prayed again. Then it vanished. I mean, literally vanished. I saw it with my own eyes. That thing grew fainter and fainter until I couldn't see it anymore. When it was gone, I ran to my parents and explained what happened. They believed me and said that if I couldn't go to sleep, I could watch TV or just stay up. I thanked them and went to the living room. Now, I'm 14, and I talked to my mother about the incident that happened 7 years ago. And when I told her what the heads looked like, she seemed very surprised and confused. When I asked her what was wrong, she told me that the description I gave perfectly matched that of my dead grandparents. I don't know if they were really my grandparents, or who that man on the door was.
Oh, who is that? Another ad. So we back. A veterinarian people. Oh, I mean the Victorian people were in my garden.
My name is Tade, and this incident happened to me when I was 8 years old. As I was in elementary school, we were learning about the Victorian era in history, which I didn't give a crap about. My history teacher had a Victorian family tree and stuck it on the walls of the classroom. I didn't know why we had to look into somebody's family history. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Look into somebody's family history. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. When I laughed at it, the history teacher glared at me. in the most stern
Ah.
and terrifying way.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
His veins were poking out of his head, and his hand clenched into a fist and was shaking quiveringly.
I'm sorry.
"What are you laughing at, boy?" he yelled. It was weird. I was too scared to reply, so I said, "Nothing." Later that night, when I went to bed, I struggled to get to sleep. I was tossing and turning. A few minutes later, I finally drifted off to sleep. But it didn't last a long time. I woke up an hour later. I was checking my phone to see that it had just passed midnight. Suddenly, I heard a group of people talking outside. I thought it was one of the neighbors, so I headed to my window. When I looked to see what was going on, my heart just dropped. There, in the middle of the garden, were parents who were beating their child with a wooden club. The parents and the kid were all wearing the Victorian-era style clothes. I was so confused why they were here, why they are beating their child, and why they wore such clothes out of place. Then, all of a sudden, the mother looked up at me. Her eyes glowed red, and she cackled loudly, which made me so terrified. Then she pointed at the sky with a finger that was so skinny, and the family faded away. I couldn't sleep at all the whole night, and I thought about the class that I took at school. From that day, I never made fun of any teachers again.
Oh my god, that teacher was literally like staring him with bloodshot eyes. My little scary teddy bear.
Hi, my name is Shay. Well, at least that's what everyone calls me. About 11 years ago, my mom, my big brother, and I moved from Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee. We were staying with my uncle and his wife and stepkids for a while until we got our own place. About a month later, we found an apartment to stay in. I had a bunch of teddy bears that I really liked between I was 12 going on 13. Well, when we finished to move our new house, I decorated my room really nice, and I set my teddy bears on my shelf above my bed. A week later, I noticed one of my teddy bears would always go missing, and I would find it under my brother's bed. I thought he was taking my teddy bear just to freak me out, but he really had no idea what I was talking about. It was kind of weird, so I decided to lock all my bears in my closet. They stayed in my closet for 2 days. Everything was fine. That's what I thought until the third day after has been started. The third day, I woke up on a Saturday and my closet door was cracked and my teddy bear was in the same place under my brother's bed. I knew something was wrong. After that, I immediately threw my teddy bears away after that. We stayed in that apartment for a year. After that, we moved. I'll never forget the day of the move. We found bones in the fireplace from a human. Now I'm 23, and I still remember that day, but I always think, what if I set up a video camera to see what was causing my teddy bears to do what they did?
Okay! Alright, so this is the last one we're taking out. This is the last animation we're taking out. We're gonna do 2 parts. If you want to, guys. My dad's friend lives in a haunted house. This is the last animation we're checking out from wansee Entertainment. This is the last animation in the 15 horror stories. Alright.
My name is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
It was August of 2001.
Okay.
I was 15 and accompanying my dad to visit his friend's new house. My dad's friend, who we call Rick, just moved into this house a few weeks ago. My dad wanted to visit and ask about renovation and decorating the place, as it was pretty old. Well, I'm English, so that means my country is full of old houses, from like the 1500s. Rick had bought an antique castle thing in a forest. I know, pretty creepy, right?
Yup.
Anyway, we arrived and Rick and his wife invited us in. My dad and Rick soon went out to the garage to discuss what plans were for that room. I was left alone with Georgina, Rick's wife, and their newborn baby, Rick Jr. Georgina asked me to fetch some formula from the kitchen for little Ricky. Being the good 15-year-old boy, I agreed, even if the house was home to demons. I went into the kitchen, and the first thing I noticed was a trap door
Teddy bears.
in the corner. Me, being curious, I opened it. A terrible smell filled the kitchen. It smelled like horse manure mixed with puke.
Ugh.
Suddenly, a pale hand with long fingers grabbed me. I swore and started hitting the hand.
Punch it.
Another hand grabbed my other hand and tried to drag me down. I shouted for my dad. Suddenly, purple eyes appeared from the darkness of the trap door.
Oh, no.
They stared at me. My dad rushed in, and the hands disappeared. I had scratches on my arm, and so I ran them under some cold water. My dad asked me what had happened. I said there was some demon guy in the cellar. My dad and Rick grabbed flashlights and searched the basement. Nothing was there. We called the cops, who searched the property, and, of course, they found nothing. When I got home, I went straight to my computer. It turns out a man was shot in a hunting accident there, roughly around 1770. But trust me, those hands weren't of a man. Rick still lives there, and over the past 18 years, there have been countless sightings and weird stuff. I just hope whoever or whatever that thing is goes away.
Oh my god. I don't want to watch no ad, alright? Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. If you want a part 2, comment down below and like this video. Please subscribe and turn on those post notifications. I'll see you in the next one. Shoo!